If there was any place that I would consider moving to outside the United States, even before Sicily, it would be Florence. This place is absolutely amazing. There is no end to the amount of art and atmosphere of this city. Florence has been described as an open-air museum, and it is true, from the sculptures to buildings to the building walls, inside the walls, the sidewalks, music. Everywhere there is art. And there are many, many different nationalities of people just roaming around, and just watching them in itself is like artwork. As with most places that we've done on the Reek Stives tours, we stay in the older sections of towns and cities because they're just much more interesting, and besides, that's where all the history is. The Etruscans initially formed a small settlement in this area in about 200 BC. The crescent city itself of Florence was established by Julius Caesar in 59 BC, so they've been around a long time. Florence was a center of European trade and finance, and it was one of the wealthiest city-states of its time. It's actually considered the birthplace of the Renaissance and has been called the Athens of the Middle Ages. This is St. John's Baptistry, and there's a whole video that involves the inside of the baptistry, so I won't tell you a whole lot about it now. But these are 3D bronze doors, and they show the scenes from the life of Christ. These are just replicas, not the originals. The originals are now in the Opera del Duomo Museum, out of the weather and away from people. This is the Duomo di Firenze, the landmark that everyone knows, and it is huge. There is a whole video just on the cathedral, the inside and the underneath. The cathedral was begun in 1296 in the Gothic style with the design of Arnolfo di Cambio, if I'm saying it correctly, and completed structurally in 1436 with the dome engineered by Filippo Brunicelli. There has been multiple renovations throughout its history. You'll notice the outside of this cathedral is very dark, and sometimes when I take the pictures it's very light, and that's because they are in the process of cleaning it, and they only had one half of it done when I was there taking pictures. So that's not shadow, that's grunge. The thing I like about this central piazza area is that you can stand in the middle of it and then turn 360 and see all kinds of artwork. Also, from this piazza, there are streets running off in all directions with all kinds of different shops, restaurants, places and things to see. Every road will eventually lead here. Even though in medieval times the Medici family were merchant bankers, in Italian the word Medici means doctor, so maybe at one time they were doctors. During medieval times, which was the Renaissance high point of Florence, Italy was not a country. It was broken down into regions and things called city-states, and Florence was one of the most powerful city-states. Had a turbulent history, fighting with other city-states for supremacy, and also just a violent political history, which includes periods when they were being ruled by the powerful Medici family. There was a lot of intrigue, a lot of political appointments, political assassinations, fights between families. They were sort of like the Gambino family of their time, and their activities would make the Godfather look tame. The Medicis even bought the papacy by installing one of their own as pope. This pope drained the treasury on wine, women, and song, and then initiated the concept of indulgences, where you could buy a token into heaven. This was one of the breaking points for Martin Luther, who started the Reformation and led to hundreds of years of Catholics and Protestants killing each other. You can't take pictures inside the Gucci Museum, but you can take pictures of the Cadillac that's in the entranceway. I know I may be over romanticizing these things, but at nighttime there's a lot of lights in this central area. You could see the Baptista, the merry-go-round, which actually I made into a Christmas card, and a whole lot of other things. It's just lit up like a little fantasy land of art and wine. These are the views from what we consider the best hotel in Florence, the Hotel Torre Guelfa, and I hope I'm saying that correctly, but they have a Facebook page that I'm always sharing. And these are the views from that tower. They have the only Renaissance period tower attached to a hotel left in Florence. About 2 doors down from the hotel is a little leather shop, which I'm also sharing on Facebook. And they are transplants from the Boston area. The woman came here as a student, fell in love, married an Italian dude, and opened up this leather shop. And me and her son kind of continue to correspond through Facebook. And it is also minutes away from the Del Vecchio Bridge. According to tour guides and some locals, during World War II, the Ponte Vecchio Bridge was not destroyed by the Germans during their retreat by express orders from Hitler. But we'll never know for sure. I find it hard to believe myself. If anything, some low-level officer who just ignored the order, but hey, who knows? Either way, I'm glad they didn't. It's on this side of the Arno that the Medici's palace or home is. And there's a video that deals with that too, because it's a huge place. This is a great place to have a little lunch, maybe a glass of wine or 2 or 3 or 4, and just to roam around. It's a high residential area, a lot of older buildings. You walk along the river and there are other bridges that you can then cross to get back to the central Florence area. Eventually, you'll always find yourself back at that central piazza area. It's like a magnet. You just can't see all the shops at one time that you're there. You see a lot of these pictures floating in and out of that central piazza area, and that's because that magnet that just draws you in and out of that area while you're there. It's because of the artwork all around, the restaurants, the shops. There's just always a lot to see. It's all over the place. It has a lot of those offshoot alleys and roadways, and each section just seems to have its own type of merchants. And there's just some great shopping there. I don't normally buy too much when I go on these tours. I don't want to carry it around this town, but even I succumbed to the allure of the leather down one of these aisles. This guy's got 2 guys walking on his arms. I don't know why. Some of these little scenes I saw here remind me of 1950s old Italian Fellini films. Florence also has a distinction of being the first capital of the recently established Kingdom of Italy from 1865 to 1871. Two weeks after we got back from the tour, this area with all the bikes and cars collapsed into the Arno River due to erosion. Many people labored, suffered, and died to leave this city to us, and the art within it is a representation of what humans can do if we choose.